No Nation, the FSU Voice of College Football post-game show, as well as the Voice of College Football main channel as we are here in week 0. Florida State and Georgia Tech took center stage. Unfortunately for Florida State fans. In Ireland, the hype was real around this team, insufficient in certain units. Wide receiver was a big worry on offense, linebacker on defense, but kind of the one thing that we were supposed to be able to hang our hat on was going to be defensive line play. We'll start there before we get to the other side of the trenches. From left to right, Pat Payton, Josh Farmer, Darrell Jackson, Marvin Jones Jr. were supposed to be maybe the best 4 defensive linemen in the entire country. You had Pete Thamel saying it, Andy Staples. You know, I made the memes. I made the reels. Nick Saban says FSU has top 5 talent. All these great things. Everybody on College Game Days picking Florida State to go to the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. The plays just didn't happen. There's no real easy way to slice it. I'm not going to compare it to any teams, but you think about Ohio State team that came out expecting the world, and then a nightmare happened against Virginia Tech. They went on to win the national championship. But you can also remember Florida State in a year thinking of the world was ahead of them. They get blown out by Virginia Tech, and you know the rest is history. It was an absolute living nightmare. I don't think we're going to have either of those endings. I think it's going to be okay. I think we're going to end up somewhere in the middle. I think you've still got a 10-win team that you're looking at, but if some things don't change, it could easily get worse than that. The defensive line, Josh Farmer, pegged as a beast, as a guy who's already thought of as a 3rd-round pick, could work his way up into maybe a 1st-round pick. He did not bring his stick to the fight today. I'll have to watch the film review, of course. Watching those terrible TV angles, it's really hard to truly break down the game, but really not impressed with him. Martin Rosario comes in with a $4.99 super chat. Don't worry, FSU fans. This game doesn't count because you guys got snubbed from the playoff last year. Did I get that right? No, unfortunately, it would be nice. Texas's loss didn't count. Alabama's loss didn't count. But no, Florida State's losses always count. We don't get the benefit of quality losses at Florida State. Never have. We got to go undefeated, wire to wire. That's the only way we win national championships. And even then, you don't get a shot. So nice quip, if you will. But come better the next $5 you spend. But we do appreciate the super chats. If you have any questions, if there's any particular thing you'd like to know what I thought about watching the game or whatever, feel free to drop those super chats. You can put regular chats down there, and I'll reply to them if I see them as they come by. I agree, Jay. This is a quality loss. Yes. Or he says, is this a quality loss? I'll say it is. One thing, if you are going to lose a game, if you're going to pick when to lose the game, I think Nick Saban even said it today. It's the first game of the year. That gives you a shot. If Georgia had lost the first game of the year, who knows what happens? Maybe they end up winning that SEC championship game. I don't know. The thing about that whole, if you're going to lose early, lose early, is you have to start winning. So this team is going to have to start winning. I think the next couple weeks you got Boston College, you got a bye, and then you got SMU. You should be able to get those games. You're supposed to get this game though. So not SMU, excuse me. You got BC and then Memphis. So those are 2 actual lesser opponents. I don't know. I can't say that. Georgia Tech was an actual lesser opponent. Brent Key, a lot was made about how good his offense was last year, moving the ball against everybody, leading the ACC in rushing. I'm guilty of downplaying it to a certain extent. Just watching the games, watching how those rushing yards were accumulated and things of that nature. But Florida State never figured it out. They didn't really figure it out all night. They did a lot better in the second half, guys. I mean, it's not like they scored 100 points. But yeah, that's the main thing on defense. The linebackers really weren't flowing. Lundy played pretty good, but I don't think he reached the level of a Kalen DeLoach or Tatum Bethune at any level in that ball game. He made some plays. The DBs were as advertised. I saw some people talking crap about or did the secondary get left at home? No, the secondary played pretty well. I didn't think, anything was wrong there. They just didn't throw the ball. I don't have the stats right in front of me because my tablet and my other phone died. We did a live stream over at the Renegade Report. If you guys want to get over there and subscribe, we'd appreciate that. We cover Florida State full time, but we appreciate everybody from college football coming in here as well. Whether you want to just talk football, hear some analytics, or laugh at us, or vent as an FSU fan, whatever it is that you want to do, now's the time for that. But yeah, the defensive line really, really, really was a disappointment. They really never established themselves. They made some better plays, like I said, in the second half, but even there on 3rd and 18, you got to get a stop there. You can't let them get 10 yards. If you don't let them pick up that 10 yards on 3rd and 18, who knows? They're probably not making that field goal. Who knows what they have to do there? But yeah, instead you give up 10 yards, and it's essentially a chip shot for a guy who had missed one early, who gave us a little bit of hope, but that wasn't it. We can talk about the defense all day long, and there's a ton of stuff there for guys that had so much hype coming into the season. That wasn't the dominant performance we've seen or expected, excuse me. But I did predict, my score prediction for this game was 41-24. I thought it was going to be exactly what we got in the first half, maybe not as sloppy, but I thought Georgia Tech was going to score. I thought it could be 14-14, 17 all, 17-14, something like that at half. But I expected Florida State to take over with that running game to tire out that Georgia Tech defensive line. But on the offense side, that never happened. The running game just never really got going. We weren't unlike Georgia Tech, we weren't getting first down after first down after first down. A lot of the things that we defended DJU on and talked about Mike Norvell would really be able to fix or kind of accentuate it. We didn't see it. It was like the 17th pass of the game before he took that shot to Malik Benson down the field. That didn't end up happening. I don't know how many shot plays there were, 2 or 3, but he was just kind of a step late on a lot of stuff, on a lot of the timing stuff, the swing passes and stuff out of the backfield. They really, really tried getting those running backs involved, but it's it didn't work. It was definitely pretty tough. You know, you cover these teams and you try to figure out the best you can of what you got going into a season. But one of the problems with college football when you're trying to judge what a team is there is no preseason, there is no integrated camps. You are literally playing against yourself. That's it. So it's hard to judge sometimes whether you have a great O line or an average line and your defensive line is terrible, or vice versa. And I'm not saying our lines are terrible. They're not redeemable or not, but I will just say that we definitely overestimated Florida State fans, analysts the same, both sides of the trenches. The offensive line was getting pushed around all day. They were not moving the defensive line. They were not moving the point of attack. And on offense, Georgia Tech was. Your skill, your playmakers, your Lawrence Toafilis, your Jalen Lucases, like they did enough to keep you in the game, keep the game close. But you just did not get what you needed out of that running game outside of that first drive. That first drive was beautiful, but after that, it just was not there. It just wasn't there. One thing that we noticed, Jen and Deshaun, especially on our stream, were really upset about it, and I was upset about it a bit. There, you saw Kyle Morlock make some plays over the middle of the field. I think 2 different touchdowns were passes over the middle of the field. You'd think they would have attacked that more. We knew going into this game, if you watched James Coleman over at Dent Media Group's film reviews and us subsequently talking about it on our channel, and you look at what they did last year, they got gashed over the middle of the field all year. It was a big weakness. We knew it. And again, we had some big games. The biggest plays of the games were kind of those passes over the middle. Getting past the disappointment of just that, a lot of people are going to talk about game management. I love Norvell. I'm a big fan. But one of the things I have never understood from day one is some of the clock management decisions he gets. Change of possession. You get stopped on first down, whatever the case may be, when you're in a time management situation where you've got a minute left in the game and you've got 3 timeouts, and it's like imperative you score here. They don't call timeout. They just huddle and they go, they run a play, and another 20, 30 seconds runs it. You had all that time. Okay. Well, you decided not to use them, so you'd have them on defense. But the way the game is going, at best, you're going to save a couple seconds. And even then, when they were driving, a timeout was called after Georgia Tech had already milked some clock. Um, the the time management when you lose these games, it can be really tough, and it's hard to ask Mike Norvell about it right after the game because couch quarterbacking and things of that nature. But I wish maybe I would have thought about it in the off season. He's got a philosophy about certain things, about whether it's trying to catch the team off guard or whatever the case may be. But I'm sure a lot of y'all at home were a bit surprised with some of that clock management there in the late third and early fourth or late fourth period. Don't worry, FS. Okay, that's the same one. I thought we had another super chat. I don't know. Said we had a second one. FSU wouldn't make the playoff if they were in the Big Ten or the SEC, says Ryan Willie. Yeah, probably not this year because they probably wouldn't win the conference or I don't know. We'd see. It's so easy to overreact to one loss, but it doesn't get much worse than this. You lose to like obviously an unranked team, but whatever 40th, 50th, wherever they are. Again, I do think Georgia Tech, based off what we've seen today, is going to be a lot better than a lot of people thought. But when you're going into a season talking about playoffs, possible national championships, when you're talking about possibly having the best D line in the nation, one of the best DB units in the nation, one of the best running backs in the nation, rooms in the nation, you can't drop a game 24-21 to Georgia Tech, especially not one where they just pretty much school you in game management and 4-minute drill and all that stuff. It was pretty painful to watch. They kind of went down there and iced the game. You just never had that big play. You had a chance, or there was a fumble, a big play penetration immediately off the snap, and I'm trying to remember who it was. Durajaye, maybe. No, it was Lolohea. I don't know if he was reaching for it and he just misjudged it, but it's like on the replay, it just looked like he was like a server at a bar and just was like, nope, I don't want you, ball. And then he was like, oh shit, that's the football. And then he went after it. But if we would have got that turnover, who knows? But that big game plan, that game changing play, never happened. And I mentioned one of the things we talked about, one of the big talking points about DJU, is he a game changer or a game manager? Well, he's definitely on that game manager side, but he's got to be able to be more consistent with his playmaking. I really thought that they were going to get enough out of him, but I was on the game manager side. I thought if he could just be a game manager, hit his backs out of the backfield, hit the play action plays, hit the few shots over the middle, we would be okay. But we found ourselves in this game in game one against Georgia Tech needing a big throw on 3rd and 7. And we've talked about it ad nauseum this offseason. There weren't many conversions. It never really came around. Yeah, big disappointment. Sorry, guys. I wish this was a cheery thing where we could come in here and everybody celebrate and talk about all the great things, but it's pretty tough. Pretty tough. My guy Jeff Hill, one of the most dedicated Noel fans out there, says if it were the last game, if we would have lost the game, but we played tough on both sides of the ball, I can handle that a little, even though I don't like it. But in my opinion, we got dominated on both sides of the ball, and that's very disappointing. Yeah. But they never had that edge. It's like they were looking for that leader to come rally the troops. So it goes to what a lot of the narrative outside of the team that we kind of fought against and that we thought wasn't going to happen happened. Nobody kind of stepped into that leader role and made a play. There was no Jermaine Johnson or Jared Verse on the field to make that play. They were not there. So yeah, unfortunately. We thought Marvin Jones Jr. would come in and be something like you had Jared Verse in 22, or maybe even better, something between 22 and 23. You thought he could be that kind of impact player. He wasn't in this game. And that's not to say, again, these offensive line that Georgia Tech have, they're seniors and juniors. They're 6'6", 300 pounds. These guys have the build. We talked a lot about depth going into this game. Behind their starting offensive line, they had a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, 6'1" guys. It wasn't pretty, but they were able to keep that starting unit out there. They were able to shorten the game. The time of possession was exactly even coming out of the first half. I'm not sure exactly where it ended up, but they controlled the ball. They kept FSU's offense on the sideline, and really they did exactly what we lined out they needed to do, and they won the football game. That's about all there is to it. That is about all there is to it. Looking at the chat here, seeing if anybody had any questions or anything, but just a bunch of comments. Hey, and I get it. I get it, guys. But yeah, if you did have any questions, I sometimes we do a call-in show, but again, I don't have the means right now. The phone died on me for the call-in line. But let's see here. I spoke to the Florida State athletic director, and he's filing a lawsuit against Ireland for SEC bias. All in good fun. Tough break. Good game, Roydell Williams. Roll Tide. So we got an Alabama fan in here. Yeah, I thought Roydell looked pretty good. I thought Toa Philly looked pretty good. I thought Jalen Lucas had a heck of a debut, jumping out there. It just, you just didn't have a team working together towards the cause that you wanted to see. It just didn't happen. And not to harp and go back to the defensive line, because again, like I said, I predicted Georgia Tech was going to score 24 points, but they were supposed to do that on a lot more possessions. Okay, they weren't supposed to score on the majority of the drives they got the ball. And again, I have to go look, but yeah, it looked like the first half of that Georgia Tech Georgia game, but it never changed. Florida State never switched into that gear. They never stopped making mistakes. There weren't any crazy mistakes. It wasn't like there was just crazy turnovers and pick sixes of that nature, that things of that nature. But it's almost like we just went in this game with a bit of a conservative approach. Thought you were just going to be able to get enough with those running back passes out of the backfield, and things of that nature to win the game. And hats off to Georgia Tech. They came in as an unrated team, as an underdog, 11.5-point underdog, and they pushed around Florida State on both sides of the ball. There was flashes of it. You saw flashes of what this team could possibly do, but there was too many times getting caught off balance. You know, Georgia Tech played bully ball. Yeah, they did. They really did. Georgia Tech came in and did exactly what Florida State was supposed to do. If we really are six deep, if Adam Fuller thinks we are six deep at defensive tackle, again, I'll have to go watch the tape. This is all just off a first watch. But then maybe it's time to give KJ Sampson, and Daniel Lyons a shot. One bright spot of the game, if we're going to give a bright spot, I saw 54 flash a couple times. Byron Turner made a couple plays. He was in on that fumble. I believe maybe he caused that fumble. Uh, I'm really not. It's really hard when you're trying to do a live stream and everything to really kind of soak everything up and get a good analysis of it. But Maji says Georgia Tech has a nasty defense. I'll reserve my opinion on that. I think this is a lot more on Florida State than what it is about Georgia Tech. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but every time they threw it over the middle, it was a big play for the most part. I think we knew that going in. A bit confused why it wasn't done more. There weren't as many shot plays. The shot plays that we had, it's like it took you 20 plays to get there. It was such a rare opportunity that you were going to get to do it. It's hard. The timing wasn't there. It was late. We needed him to be able to drop back and just throw it up. Okay, it's hard. You can't do that. You can't just telegraph what we were doing. And that's another part of it. the running game. Deshaun said this over and over again, and I noticed it too there, especially in I think the second quarter. We were kind of telegraphing running plays. And again, I have to go back look. I'm not sure how much of the counter G scheme we ran, but it just sure seemed like they're out there 8 men in the box, and it's like we're running here. Everybody knows it, and we were supposed to be able to run them over. We were supposed to be able to get those 1-2 yards, and it just didn't happen. We didn't get in those situations. We made a couple short yardage um, conversions. DJU going under center, got a quarterback sneak, which was great, something that we were hoping for. But there was another quarterback power from a 3rd and 2 where he got swallowed up in the backfield, and it was a completely broken play. So very tough day for the Florida State Seminoles. There is no doubt about it. And hats off to their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator because they gave Florida State fits. Try real hard not to give excuses, guys, but all you can do is kind of talk about what you saw. And, obviously Alex Adkins wasn't there. We tried to make very light of it. Gabe Fertitta is a really big part of this coaching staff. Everybody that you hear talk to him raves about him. He's been coaching the position for 15, 20 years. He's, got it out of the dirt from JUCO all the way on up. But maybe we did hurt. Maybe we did miss having Alex Atkins there when the offensive line wasn't getting things together. Maybe it would have been better to have him. Maybe 8 or 9 guys. Maybe they shrink that rotation after this game. It's hard to tell. It's really, really hard to tell. Again, guys, if you have any questions, you want to help me out, drop them in the chat. If you have any thoughts, drop them in the chat, and we'll continue to talk about Florida State. Somebody in the chat says their season's over with. Again, if you're going to lose a game, you lose the first one. I'm not going to say their season's over with. There is a long, long ways to go. But if nothing changes, if they can't get considerably better, if they can't get together, yeah, it's over. It's over in the theme of any hopes of like a 10-2, 11-1 season. Yeah, that's out of the door. But it's a little early. This is we talked a lot about how this team was going to be a lot like 2022. The problem is in 2022 we ran into an LSU team that had a little bit of the same issues we had. We won that game. It was a big game. We should have won it bigger than we thought. We go on. We do all great things. We dropped the 3 games. This year we were saying very similar to 2022, but different talent level. Much more talent across both offensive line, defensive line. More talent in the bottom third of the roster. But after one game, you look at it, and unfortunately, this team may be a lot more like that 2022 team than we might have liked to have imagined. My guy Jake Crane, I know he's already texted me because we had a good debate there the other day over DJU. I'm not closing the book on him. I truly do believe in Mike Norvell and his ability to figure out these quarterbacks and get the very absolute best out of them. But the very first game of Jordan Travis wasn't absolute beauty. He was pretty damn good when he started for the first time in 22 to open that season. But that 2020 year, he won that job and closed the season out. Like, he was in there. So hopefully there's room for improvement and they figure out a better way to make use of this offense. Or yeah, it will be over. It will be a long time. It will be a long season. Somebody's saying delusional in the chat. I don't know what I said. Is delusional. John Sarion says offense didn't lose the game. I mean, if you're going to say offense didn't lose the game, you can say defense didn't lose the game. Both sides of the ball lost the game. We didn't get the stops we needed, and we didn't stay on the field long enough. Both. I mean, you can dominate time of possession in 2 different ways, and you have to look at the strengths of the team. The strength of the Georgia Tech team was their offensive line and Haynes King. That was the strength of their team, and that's what they pushed. If you could get a wash there, that was supposed to be a win. Your defense is supposed to be great. You were supposed to be able to stymie them, but your offense was also supposed to score. I mean, I predicted 41-24. They scored the same exact amount of points that I suggested, but we didn't score. I mean, Florida State scored on that first drive, and that was it. They scored one time in the first 5 minutes and then 10 points for the rest of 3.5 quarters. So to tell me the offense didn't lose the game, I don't know. I mean, the offense is the one that scores. Like your defense isn't expected to get pick sixes and things of that nature. They are expected to get stops and get off the field, though. I'm not absolving them of trouble, but I mean, yeah, it was an equal effort. The only part of this team that didn't lose the game was special teams, and even special teams, I was disappointed. One of the first, or I think it was the first punt of the game, we had a chance to stop them deep, and it would have been a big momentum shift, and we kicked it into the end zone like it wasn't even close, just straight into the end zone. They brought it right back out for a touchback. I think we might have even ended up getting a stop on that drive, but it was just little things like that all game. You don't pick up a fumble, you don't do this, you don't do that, um, in which it should have never came down to that. Matthew Miller drops another $4.99 super chat. Hook 'em from Ohio, brother. Sorry about the loss and the shitty comments. Everyone will eat their humble pie, but one team. Unfortunately, you guys went first, but we appreciate the kind sentiments. And I get it. You know, you got to eat it every once in a while. I did the work to make all the predictions and put out all the fun stuff. And the worst absolute possible scenario that could happen came true. We talked about it on the show. The one path for Georgia Tech to win would be to take the air out of the football, limit possessions to 3 or 4 a half, and get your fair amount of stops. Make a big play here, get a turnover. There weren't the turnovers. They were very safe with the football. Again, if I could go over, what went wrong all day, but I guess we could look at what maybe could have went right. I feel like, curious what you guys think. I feel like they could have been more aggressive. I would have liked to have seen more shots downfield, more big plays over the middle, to try to really get something going. Again, it all goes back to they're expecting to run on first and second down and get 4, 5, 6 yards every time, and it just wasn't happening. You kept ending up in 3rd and 7. And DJU's thing is not passing out of 3rd and 7. He needs to be able to throw on first and second down. Um, and we don't really have the wide receivers, which I have to go look back again. But the other guys were saying Malik Benson looked like he was actually open for a lot of the day. I know he's open on one of those deep shots that was kind of missed there at the edge of the sideline. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow. I don't know what to tell you guys, except for it's tough. It's tough. And shout out to those who were right. We appreciate you, Big Ears Bo. Appreciate the props. There was actually supposed to be 4 of us, so yeah, I'm the only one that made it. So it's pretty freaking tough, dude. But we're gonna get through it. We're gonna have some fun. If you get a good joke, I'll read it. If you do a super chat, we're gonna read those as always. If you have any questions about anything I saw in the game, throw it down. We really appreciate you guys for joining us. It's not the show we were wanting to do. It's not the fun show that we're gonna have, but here we are, like we will be every week this season. Every week on the FSU Voice of College Football channel. Myself, George from the Renegade Report. We'll be doing the post game show. This one was simulcast on the main channel as well as the Florida State channel, just due to the fact that Florida State and Georgia Tech was the only game in town. They were what it was all about. So it is what it is. Conundrum says 50% of the teams are losing week 1. Fall back and regroup. And hey, that's true. And as far as the program, that really is true for a lot of folks. But, and I'll own it myself, with all the shit I talked all off season, with where I ranked all these different units nationally, within the conference, when you break down all the different guys you brought in, recruiting rankings, the people that have been developed within the program, yeah, you can't be preseason top 10, think you're a playoff team, and drop a game like that. We could find out, if Georgia Tech ends up they're 8-0 and ranked top 10 in the nation, all of a sudden you find out, okay, you lost to a top 10 team by 3 points. That's okay. But currently, as it stands, until we can see Georgia Tech in front of some other people, it's a really, really, really bad loss. Really, 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 really bad loss. Congratulations to the Georgia Tech Boilermakers. That's Purdue Boilermakers. The Georgia Tech something or other else. Yeah, think about that. Clemson lost to Duke. They got blown out by Duke last year, so it could always be worse. Um, and they won 9 games. So we'll see what happens. This better not be the first we lose to Duke. If we we lose to Duke, oh my gosh, I may have to bail out for that post game show. I may just put a recording on for you guys or something of Happy Days. Folks saying Norvell made no adjustments. I definitely think they made adjustments on defense. I think they played much better defense in the second half. But as far as the offense, I have to agree. I just don't know why there weren't more of those routes over the middle. It was like 100% completion percentage, and it was all big plays, and it was guys that were wide open in that zone. I think there's a want to establish the run. We did a whole bunch of stuff in 20 personnel that didn't work like it did last year. Last year, it was almost a thing like when we got in 20 personnel, it messed defenses up. They didn't know what to key on, and we would tear them up. That didn't work out today. We were in 21 personnel a couple times. Of course, 2 running backs, 1 tight end. Courtney and Morlock made some big plays early and then disappeared. So DJ has placing the ball problems. Yeah. Yeah, he does have placing the ball problems. He does. He is who he is. He is who he is. You just, when Mike Norvell says he's exactly who he thought he is and he's done awesome and all these things, it gives you confidence. But after watching that game, not so much. And again, don't go clip this and say he said this accident. I was like, it's hard on that game view, running a show and doing everything else. I'll have to go watch the film. But yeah, DJ, you did not look great. Looked a lot like the spring game when we were talking about how good our DBs are and things of that nature. Georgia Tech's DBs were not supposed to be as good as they were. And it just feels like we made them look that way. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong. Maybe they had a lot of stuff ran over the middle and he didn't pull the trigger on it. I'll have to go back and look. But it just seems like every time I looked up, they ran something that crossed the center from either hash. It was a dude, wide open. DJ played on a smash mouth type offense last season and played to his strengths. He's a fish out of the water for Coach Norvell. Well, look, if you watch the game, that's what this was supposed to be. That was a smash mouth offense. Unfortunately, it was not. Bobby Miller obviously must not be a FSU fan. He said he loved the game every minute. Scott Grable, I'll give you your props after all that talk on the Renegade podcast. You're here to take your lumps. Yeah, hey man, I ain't gonna run from it. It is what it is. I can be a professional, and we have fun on the Renegade Report. If you haven't been over there, we do the Renegade Rundown 3 times a week. Me and Deshaun get into it, and we get real serious breaking down the game. We have former Knowles on. We had Jeff Colhane, the voice of college football, the other day. Jen really has a lot of fun trolling some of these guys and making fun of things. She's like kind of the color for it. Her and our guy Tiny Hat CEO have a show on Mondays called the Renegade Roast, or it's just that. It's like a roast. Leave your feelings at the door. Nothing's personal. Just talking crap, whether it's about stereotypes about Miami or Syracuse or any of the things of that nature. It's not hateful, just having fun. And that's what it is. But when it comes down to, kind of predicting things and things of that nature, what I always tell everybody is when they say, oh, we're going to come back for them bookmarks, wait, you're going to go hide. No, I'm not going to go hide. Like, we've put out a couple hundred videos. It's all there. We don't delete anything. If we delete something, it's because you have a falling out with a guest or maybe somebody you used to do business with that you don't do it anymore. And that's only happened twice as long as I've been doing this. But for the most part, it stays up. So if you're going to go pull what we said about this season, make sure you go pull everything we said last off season and during the season when everybody was doubting Florida State. and they went 13-0. So we'll see. It's not over. I was on the fence of going 11-0 or 12-0, and I went against my gut instinct and went 12-0. The opposite of what I did last year. Last year I went 11-1, and we go 12-0. So we'll see what happens. Maybe this year we go 11-1. If they get their shit to go together and go 11-1, you're hyped. You're in the ACC championship. You're right there in playoff talk. But you can only lose one game for that. One more game, and you're gonna have to get really lucky or mess around and win the conference to get in. So it is what it is. Aquatics VFX says FSU lacked in recruiting this year. This isn't the same team. Well, I will vehemently disagree with you there. That take couldn't be farther off as far as recruiting. This is far and away the best year Florida State has had recruiting under Mike Norvell. They signed 27 blue chip recruits, 10 of which were transfers, 15 were high school guys, another high school as a preferred walk on. The issue is that they're all true freshmen. And a couple of them guys that moved up a class, like Amari Williams. So, yeah, you did your best year high school recruiting. Maybe you didn't hit in the portal as amazingly as you have in previous years on your D line. But no, Florida State recruited damn well. It's more about the fact that, obviously you lose 10 picks to the NFL draft. 6 of them were the top 100 last year. Like, those leaders, those people, like, they've been through it all, and it has to be replaced. It has to be, earned. Hopefully you get this Georgia Tech game and the team can grow together, but you drop it. Again, not to bring up that Ohio State game again, but we saw what they did. Like, it's not Virginia Tech sucked. They were just as bad or worse than what Georgia Tech was this year. That year they lost to like Old Dominion or something. They were not good, and they beat Ohio State and they won the national championship. And again, I'm not saying that. Okay, I don't know if we have a backup quarterback that can make a crazy run like Cardale Jones did, even though he never really did anything after that. I don't know if we've got a running back that'll ever be what Ezekiel Elliott does. But yes, if you are going to lose a game, lose the first one in Ireland and all those things with everything that goes with it, with the first-year quarterback versus a guy who brought a quarterback, all the things of that nature. And again, those aren't excuses. Those are just the facts of what it is for Florida State moving forward. When they get in that locker room and they get together as a group and try to figure out what they have to do going forward, all they can do is get better every day. That's it. And again, it's really easy to talk shit about Mike and the schemes and the time management, and I want to, believe me. But I also watched what he did the second half of 21. I saw 22 the second half. I saw all last year. Like, so I know it works, but it just has to come together. And things look really bad. When it goes wrong, it's really easy from the couch. And yeah, from conventional wisdom, it's infuriating. But yeah, for now, Mike still has all the trust and respect I can give to him. But we got to get Alex Atkins back. And, they got to take a look in the mirror. They got to really get it after at practice, and they've got to go into this thing with an underdog mentality with a chip on their shoulder this whole year. It's not like the team didn't quit. It's like the team just never got going. They just could not ever get the thing on the tracks. That's one thing we talked about a little bit with these wide receivers. The biggest thing with not having a returning guy or a jersey name is like sometimes you just need to have success in a game. You need to catch that first touchdown. If you remember Keon Coleman, like in that LSU game, it was immediate. Bam. Huge play, huge. He catches those 3 touchdowns, and that's it. Now you can easily just say, well, these guys had the opportunity. They just didn't catch it. But really they didn't. And those plays over the middle, again, they made hay there. To me, you keep sending them out over the middle until they pull some guys out of the box or try to, at least deepen his depth to try to get behind that slant or that crosser or whatever the case may be. And then you can run it. But it just seemed like we wanted to run it in standard downs when they knew we were running it, that's to set up the play action. It's for all kind of things. Again, I'm not trying to act like I'm the greatest coach in the world, but if you're going into that game, like you just have to scrap out a win, do everything you possibly can to win. It seems like maybe you do it a little different. it almost seems like we just really didn't study our opponent and was just kind of the old cliche of we're going to worry about ourselves. We're going to run our offense. We're going to run our defense. And that's it. And it didn't work out. The desperation wasn't there. Just tough. Just a tough loss. And these guys got to really take a long look in the mirror. I just don't want to denigrate anybody or blow it out of proportion because it's just one football game and teams lose these games every year. Texas lost to OU, which I'm pretty high on OU. I think Brent Venables will get that program going, but a lot of people really talk shit about him losing that game. They made it to the playoff, so it's not the end of the world. We've seen teams look like crap and then come out and look like world beaters. But yeah, the assumptions and the starting point has dropped really low. And here's the hoping Georgia Tech kicks ass. Hopefully they have a great year because if they don't, it looked really bad then. 1989 M says DJ had a stud running back room last season that really helped keep the big pressure off of him. I'll say this: I don't even. Again, I'll have to go look at the film, but I thought the running backs did pretty damn well when the line wasn't just completely washed out. When things were blocked up, like especially that first drive, it seemed like they were world beaters. Robert Scott had a really tough rep where he got way too wide, trying not to get beat, and the tackle just went straight at DJU. He was completely disjointed from the line. It was just a sloppy game. It was just a sloppy game. And Georgia Tech looked like a team that brought, everybody they brought back knew their identity and they played to it. Hanks King didn't have a crazy day, but he did just enough to win the game. He made the first downs he had to get. He got the scores he had to get, and they didn't flinch. I'll go back to that 3rd and 18 play. It's kind of a emblematic of the whole game. You get a big stop or a big sack 10, 15 yards back. You get them on the edge of field goal range, and you got a chance to go to overtime or get a turnover, whatever the case may be. And you give up a routine little 9-8 yards, like you're just trying to stop them from getting a first down. And they kick the chip shot. It happens. Scott and Byers got blown up way too often. I didn't see Byers blown up, but he did get called for the hold, the obvious holding when DJ tried to run out of the pocket. That's something he's been notorious for, is holding that right shoulder, that left shoulder pad of the offensive lineman anytime he crosses face. I don't know. I'm no offensive lineman expert, but I guess he has a hold of that thing when he has him in front of him, and you just get caught when the O-line runs out because it makes it visible. But you've got to let go. If you're an offensive lineman, you've got to let go. You can't try to sneak something in to save your quarterback or save face or look good. You just got to let go. If you can do something, sacrifice your body to just put it in front of them, do that. But holding that shoulder pad is going to be called holding every single time. Every single time. They kept Isaiah Thomas out of the game too. That's something I'll have to go look at. They were running it away from him. He's probably one of the better tacklers we have on the team, I think. And yeah, he wasn't getting much action. Made a couple little plays. Shaheem Brown made a damn good play at deep safety, I thought, and the dude just made a better play. He came over there and popped him, and the dude held onto the ball. In hindsight, I guess Shaheem should have went for the ball. But yeah, props out to that little receiver who held on to that after a lick from AZ, for sure. Edwin Joseph, I was proud of him. He made a big play. So shouts out Edwin Joseph when you got in the game, making the most of your opportunity. Again, Byron Turner, a big bright spot of the game for me. I have to go back and watch, but it seemed like when he got in, he was making plays. I'm not sure on Cam Riley or any of the linebackers before DJ Lundy. I feel like DJ Lundy is a decent option. You'd still want him to be your third option. We wish we had Deloach and Tatum Bethune, but I think he's a decent enough option. I seen Nicholson out there some. I seen, like I said, Cam Riley out there some. I'm not sure what the answer is there exactly, but that's something they're going to have to shore up as well. But yeah, I wasn't too hard on Shaheem Brown's play as some, and Nazaria Thomas, because like I said, I think they just kind of kept him out of the game. Jim says it's going to be a crazy year. Many upsets coming. I hope so. It would sure be nice if everybody else in the top 10 took a loss and I could laugh at all them too. I'm seeing that it's a bad take for Florida State to take their team overseas. I don't know, man. I don't know. Is it better to be overseas or at Georgia Tech? I think we probably had a better percentage of a crowd uh, in Ireland than it would have been at Georgia Tech. That's an excuse you could use, and maybe the youth at wide receiver and the newness at quarterback lends itself more continuity for Georgia Tech. So a little bit easier on travel with them having the kind of the same guys back on both sides of the ball on the front line. But no, that's just an excuse. I wouldn't use it. There's 60 degrees there. It was pouring rain at the beginning of the game. I didn't think that helped DJU. But again, it was pouring rain for them too. It was pouring rain for them, and they made the plays. They made enough plays to get the win, and they got the field goal too. We was hoping for another block, but it didn't happen. Yeah, Ramon, it was a tough one, brother. But I feel this pain right here with you. Right here with you. Mike Norvell should be on the hot seat. No, I'm gonna table the hot seat talk. Table the hot seat talk. Give me a couple weeks. Uh, give me a couple years. Actually, I don't know. Norvell would have to really screw up this year to be on the hot seat. Um, we underplayed it. I really, really underplayed it. I did not think it would affect us as much with the changes we had. I thought we had enough people returning on defense. I thought the offensive line coming back and being improved. I thought with the running backs we had, we would be totally fine. And there's a world like with this personnel, we can get it done. I think it's just maybe going to take a little bit more time than the staff imagined. I think they put the stuff in there that they thought would be the best for this game, and unfortunately, it was exactly what Georgia Tech was prepared for, and it didn't work out. Well, if you guys are wanting to start with cupcakes, don't look at next year's schedule. We open the season with Alabama in 2025. But the talent is heading up. It's going to get better and better. It's just funny. Hard to build a program with all portal guys. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Portal guys, high school guys, talk about building a program. You think it's better to replace all these positions with true freshmen? You think they would have been better? No. Whether you build out of the portal, whether you build out of high school, whether you build out of both, you're gonna work towards a group of guys that are gonna get drafted, and you're gonna be left with a hole. That's what happens when you build a program. When you build a program, you develop your first string and then your second string and your third string. And when you lose your entire first string damn near it to the draft and things of that nature, and it's time to break in the new guys, sometimes you come out and it's gangbusters. Sometimes it takes some time. Unfortunately for Florida State, it's going to take some time. It was a lot of losses, and it affected them a lot more than I thought. But I don't think saying Mike Norvell can't build a program is the equator there. I think Memphis is doing just fine running the program he built up there, and I think Florida State will just be fine for years to come, because there's only we had 3 undefeated teams last year, and Florida State was one of them. So we know what it's about. Florida State's got multiple. The 1999 team was the first ever wire-to-wire #1 national championship, and I don't think anybody's done it since. Maybe somebody has. Somebody could tell me in the chat. But yeah, Mike Norvell's good. Adam Fuller's good. Alex Atkins will be back eventually. Everything will be good. And we really don't know. We're going to find out. But according to the stats and everything, that might be one of the better offensive lines and running games you play all year. It's amazing to me how people can do that with the personnel that they have, having only signed 6 blue chips in the past 4 years and things of that nature. But it just goes to show you, football is why we all love the game, man. If you knew what was going to happen and it was always chalk, it wouldn't be any fun. But I can't tell you, I can't lie and tell you it doesn't hurt, that it doesn't suck. It would have been a lot more fun having fun. You can't win them all, just going to take a little longer than expected. Exactly. Going into it, a lot of the thought was 9-3, 10-2. Vegas has the win total at 9.5, and that was all for a reason. We just got some really, really bullish stuff from people I trusted, from people you trust, from Nick Saban, from anybody that had been out to practice, because that's what we saw. But again, college football, even more than the NFL or any other sport, is an extreme, inexact science, because it's a team built up of a bunch of one-on-one matchups. So you may look great in practice, but hell, you just may be a good matchup for the guy across from you. And for whatever reason, this defensive line has grown with our offensive line and things of that nature. Maybe they misjudged it. But the good thing about this loss is it wasn't completely for naught. They've got tape. You think we were upset, Florida State fans, in our live streams and tweeting and everything else? I guarantee you this coaching staff is fired up. Fired up. So I can't wait to see what they fix. But yeah, the season has become infinitely more interesting. Gary West says he was thinking 10-2. Now he's thinking 9-3. At worst, 8-4. Yeah, anything less than 8 or 9 wins would be a complete disaster. It's still possible to win the conference and make the college football playoff. Just got to make a run. Yeah, it's not out of the realm. I don't know. I'm not going to change the projection that I made, but if I had to start today, I don't know if I'd bet we win it. Got some tough games coming up from what we saw today. Notre Dame, Clemson, Virginia Tech. I mean, we completely manhandled Virginia Tech last year, but they were just real similar to Georgia Tech. They were turning a lot off of a team that offense got a lot better as the year went on. So we'll see. It's going to be a very interesting year. It becomes a lot about beating Florida State and Miami now. One game doesn't define your season, but beating Florida and Miami does. So you're going to make your run for the ACC title, but even in the worst case scenario, you drop another game or two. Whatever you do, you got to beat Miami and Florida State. Continue to own that state title. Continue to improve your in-state recruiting, and show some things. Show some grit. Get better and better and better. And I think they will. Again, it's the first game of the season. That's why it hurts so much. I just can't help but imagine this team somehow underestimated them or got their adrenaline out or something. It just is what it is. Appreciate everybody again for joining the stream. Make sure you join us at the Voice of College Football. We're live the FSU Voice of College Football, that is, every Wednesday. Again, that's every Wednesday right here at the FSU Voice of College Football. So yeah, come join us, as well as the main Voice of College Football channel. Mark does a show every morning. He does all kind of great shows. He's got channels for just about all the big brands and teams, from USC to FSU, obviously, Miami, and many others. So please hit the like and the subscribe, whether you're on FSU or on the main channel. We really appreciate that. We appreciate all 4 of the super chats. Those were great. Sometimes we go a little over, go an hour and a half, 2 hours, but I think you can all understand we'll probably call this one a solid hour as we get up here to 56 minutes. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or thoughts or concerns, now is the time. If you have any questions, get them out. If you have any good takes, you may have to do a super chat to get it off the screen if you're trolling, but I'll throw it in the chat and we'll see. I'll try to answer it or throw it up here if I can. Man. Got to beat some teams like Boston College too to get to a bowl. Yeah, we definitely got to beat Boston College and some smaller teams. And again, would be easy. And a lot of people preseason were acting like Georgia Tech is one of those teams, but they aren't. They are one of these teams that overachieves with less. They are Duke of last year. They are whoever else. They are a pretty decent team. They don't have depth, but the game they play shortens the game. And if they can do it, if they can execute their game plan, they can take anybody into deep waters and possibly beat them. But if it doesn't, if they stop the run, they can just as easily get beat by 60. And that's just a product of what they do. But it's a perfect product to beat a team like Florida State, especially one in the first game of the year, trying to get some rhythm and get their stuff together. Aquatic VFX says, I think we all knew this wasn't going to be the same team, but it hurts. Yeah, I knew it wasn't going to be the same team. The thought was you can get by Georgia Tech, you can handle business. Then you got Boston College, then you got Memphis, you can handle business there, and start to work into this offensive identity. Find an offensive identity, get your defensive line rotations down and solidified. But you didn't. You didn't get that opportunity. We'll see what kind of fire this lights under their butts at practice and things of that nature. Like, the talent is there, the bodies are there, the pedigrees are there. They just got to get out there and do it. They got to get out there and do it. And I appreciate all the thanks in the chat and everybody for hanging out. I wish I could say it was like the most fun thing I've ever done, but it wasn't. But still, we got to do this. Love talking football. Love Florida State football. Love coming on the Voice of College Football with Mark and Chris and James every Wednesday. Love hanging out over at the Renegade Report. And yeah, we're not going to hide. Probably won't have any memes about having a best DB unit in the nation. But we will do our normal shows, and we'll cut it up. We'll cut some shorts and address it all. And I'm sure I've got 100 million Facebook notifications and Twitter notifications and all kind of stuff from all the bit of trolling that I do participate in. If I see somebody that I think's being disrespectful or saying something goofy, that's when I jump in and we'll go back and forth and try to, whatever, make somebody feel dumb for being a butthole. But yeah, I'm about to get it. There is no doubt. All those predictions, I'm sure people are going to be cutting clips from the show and all kind of stuff like that. But whatever. I was blessed and honored. I lived a blessed existence in my first year covering the team. We went 13-0. And then, of course, we had the snub. But yeah, not so much this year. A little different, guys. A little bit different. Alrighty, guys. I think that's going to call it right here at 1 hour. Again, tough loss, man. There's no one place to put the blame. The defense was not who we thought they were. The offensive line was not who we thought they were. The running backs, I, I'll withhold a review on the running backs. I still think we have some dynamic running backs. They just weren't given very good opportunities. So we'll see what happens there. Wide receiver remains to be seen. We've got to throw the passes. We've got to be able to get in a rhythm and play enough plays out there. Linebacker, big question mark. So yeah, we're going to look at linebacker. We're going to look at the defensive line. I'm going to go back and watch the tape. And we'll see you guys tomorrow, probably 7 Eastern, our normal time, since it's not the regular season with all the other games in the NFL. Once the NFL starts, we'll start moving those back to noon Eastern for the Sunday review episodes. But again, join us here Wednesday, 6 Eastern for FSU football, college football, and we'll see you then. Go Noles.